young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You are in the law. The COVID edition is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
We need everyone in the society to stand up, like to really get together and form a relationship. It doesn't matter the political party or whatever. We need to, religion, we need to first put away differences and come together and say we need to fight. We can't even fight COVID because we don't know much about it. But how do we protect people? Yes, they're saying immunization, but the children can't be immunized. And I was looking at children living with HIV, AIDS. During that lockdown, how were they getting their medication? It was hard. Then there were those children with cancer who were told to go back home. And then it is later that they started trying to get doctors on motorbikes to go and deliver the medication. But see, when there's a break in their medication, it brings more it brings more issues. And no one talked about the children who died during that time because of medication, not having medication in time and what, or who have fallen back in their things. So we need to learn to have a standby. We have to have community, maybe say there are paralegal, paramedics in the communities. And these paramedics should reach out to it should be in every parish, every village, we should have paramedics.
Hello, welcome to yet another episode of You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. This show is proudly brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda in partnership with I4C Africa Hub. You and the Law is simply what it states. You and the Law, we explain the relationship between human beings, between us people, and the law, because the law guides every aspect of our lives. This particular edition of You and the Law is dedicated to COVID-19. How has COVID-19 affected our human rights? Over the last episodes, we've tackled different human rights that have been affected by the pandemic. Today, we look at children. How has COVID-19 affected children's rights in Uganda? What are the issues that are emerging because of COVID-19 as far as children are concerned? What do we need to do to protect children in these hard times? With me in studio is Ms. Sarah Awelo, the lead counsel for GBV at the Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity. Sarah, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How have you been?
Oh, I'm okay. I've been fine. Well, COVID gave me some rest.
Yes. And in terms of work, because I know a lot of things have changed over the years, how has it affected your work life?
A lot of things have changed, yes. Sometimes you work from home, but being legal, it is hard to fully work from home. So you have court, home, in between. Sometimes you're torn. Is it today we are going to have court online, or we are going to stay from? Then it's hard to meet your clients. You just see them via the video link.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but hopefully things will normalize. You come from UCLF, the Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity. Perhaps for a person who could be hearing this for the first time, you could give us a little bit of more information about the organization that you work for.
Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity is a membership organization. It's a legal aid. We provide legal aid to people who could not afford money or any amount of money, especially family, land matters. We also provide legal aid to the children, juvenile justice. So we have all that. Then we also handle GBV, gender-based violence programs, mainly in Kayunga. Yes, so we are those places.
So your services are completely free?
Our services are free.
Oh, interesting. And in terms of the name of the organization, there's the Christian aspect of it, and somebody could be tempted to ask, are your services restricted to only a particular group of people who subscribe to a particular faith, or it's open?
No. We handle everyone. Everyone. You see, everyone is a child of God. So we handle everyone as a child of God.
Yes.
We believe we are missionaries, and we are doing that by working, helping people in the legal. In a legal way. So for us, maybe we may not stand on the street every day to preach, but we shall go to court. We shall fight for people's rights every day.
Okay.
Yes, that's how we shall preach.
I think it's an interesting approach, to missionary work by providing an actual service. And so today we're talking about COVID-19 and how it has affected our lives, and we're specifically having conversation around children. But perhaps before we delve into much detail, we could try to understand from you, before we even talk about the law, what is this whole idea of children's rights? Why do they matter? Why should somebody lose sleep over rights of children? What's the value of children's rights?
You see, children are, all of us were once children, and children, let's say it's the future of the nation. Okay, that's how it's sung. Children are the future of the nation. But how do we build a nation with broken children? So we need to protect these children so that we have a strong nation, we have a better future. I think that's why the rights of children have to be protected, so that we may have a better nation in future. Yes.
So children represent, a
nation.
The nation, and from a futuristic, I think it's a very interesting angle to this. But then now we move to talk about children's rights. As you've explained, children are the future of the nation and we should protect them. Is there a law that provides for that, or is that just your wishful thinking? Where do we derive the mandate to talk about children's rights?
The rights of children are protected by our Constitution, the 1995 Constitution as amended. Then we have the Children's Act. Then there are those conventions, the international conventions that Uganda decided to sign and be a part of. We have the 1985 UN Convention on the Rights of Children, and then the 1990 African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. So all that are some of the laws that protect children that Uganda ascribes to.
Okay, but in terms of then what exactly do they actually provide for? Like, what are those rights? If you do tell a random person that these are children's rights, what could be examples that we can share?
Well, they have a right to live with their parents or guardians. They have a right to education, a right to practice the religion they know, a right to, yes.
Very important for UCLF.
Yes, very important. A right to shelter, to medication. They have their rights. Yes.
So, but then if you move further and talk about those rights, whose duty is it to provide them? Because, there's been a lot of conversations around, in Africa, parenting children is a societal issue, but then you're discussing it from a human rights angle. So who bears the obligation to ensure that actually these rights are protected?
In Africa, the children are for the whole village, but okay, currently it's changing. Those days it used to be, I think, the days of our parents, but currently, who protects the children apart from their parents? Sometimes even the relatives do not protect them. So we have also the welfare officer, like the government decides to put in place institutions to protect them. For example, the Secretary for Children's Welfare in the local council. We have also the Family and Children's Court, where we could run to when their rights are being infringed on. We have the probation and social welfare officers. We have the district probation and social welfare officers. We have all those people to protect. But really it is each of us, all of us as individuals, even the children themselves, they should protect their own rights.
Some people argue that children's rights fall under the broad category of human rights. I mean, there's sort of a subcategory of human rights, and there's this talk about you need to respect, protect, fulfill this right, which is put on the state. I don't know from your experience working this, what does actually respecting children's rights mean from the angle of the government?
Let's say the right to live with your parents. What should the government do to help children to make sure that that right is respected? Parents, one thing government should also do is help the parents have income or have something to provide for these children. Because when they start saying then we have a right to be given proper food, right to clothing, we have medical care and a home, if the parents are sleeping on the streets, then how will these rights be given to them? So I think with the government, it has to start with the parents. The parents should be given the ability or should
conducive environment.
A conducive environment to provide and protect the rights of these children.
Okay. And then in terms of the fulfilling this right, some people argue that it's important to have laws, policies in place. I wonder how Uganda is doing in that context, from your experience as a child rights advocate.
Well, we have very good laws. Yes.
On children issues?
On children's issues,
okay.
We have.
Run us through them.
We have the Constitution, the Children's Act. They give us very good laws toward the rights of children, the obligation, how to ensure that they have proper health, education, mental, physical, and moral development. And our issue is implementing those laws, and then also do people know those laws. Right now we are talking about the laws, and we are here in Kampala with an upper class talking about it. But what about that mother in Kayunga who has all those issues? She has no idea, maybe even that the children have rights. For her, her work is to see them live every day. I got a saying in my work with the people in Kayunga when they said that children grow anyway. Somehow they will grow. They will grow.
Yes.
It's hard. Even our crops don't just grow. You have to weed.
Yes.
What? Yeah, but you see, to them that's their belief. Somehow they will grow.
You've mentioned about the Constitution and talked about the Children's Act. Perhaps we could spend a bit more time understanding the Children's Act and sort of its provisions on children's rights. What are the salient features that we can, talk about if you're to, tell a random person about this children's rights from the angle of that act?
From the angle of the act, a child is a person below the age of 18.
Oh, by the way, we forgot even to understand that, yes.
A child is a person from that age of 18, and then children's rights mean the basic needs that a child must have to ensure his or her proper growth and development. I look at it, proper growth and development.
Proper growth and development.
It's relative. That's relative. Because and a child will say, for me to have proper growth and development, I need Cerelac. The other one will get up and go to a mango tree and look for those small mangoes that have even not yet. So it's relative. And it's even under the act we say, they have their obligations. So sometimes we go so much on their rights.
Yes.
But see, they also have an obligation. But like they said, the obligation for them to go to school and be obedient while at school. But a child to go to school on an empty stomach, unless he or she knows that at school they're going to give me something to eat. Some porridge. So that one, it will be easy for the child to fulfill that obligation. But just sending the child to school, and the child knows there's nothing for me to eat, he will pass by the gardens, people's homes, look for mangoes. By the time they reach school, it is midday.
Yes.
And then they get back. So we have under the Children's Act those very good laws, the rights, the obligations, but also we have the buts. But
yes, there's always a but somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's then switch gears, because we're discussing children's rights, but specifically in the context of COVID-19, which came and really, forced our government to do so many things, and most of them really had a bearing on children's rights. So I'll sort of start from that point. When you assess, when COVID-19 came, what are those actions that government of Uganda took generally, and then perhaps later we can discuss how those affected children's rights?
When COVID-19 came, I know the government was trying to protect its citizens, that's its work. Then it closed schools, it closed places of worship, and then there were no places of leisure, were also closed, and it brought all that. It was good. They wanted to protect everyone from COVID-19, prevent death, that's their work. And it has gone on. It's now 2 years. It's 2 years. For a child who has always gone to church every Sunday or been taken to the mosque.
I can notice your interest in church.
See, and then all of a sudden there's no going anywhere. They are stuck on the, let's say, the four walls.
Yes.
Inside the house, inside the gate, or within the compound. And then they cannot go swimming, they cannot go moving around with their friends, roaming. Okay, let me put in the village.
Playing even.
Playing.
Yeah.
You see, going to the other neighbor. This, well, it has brought a lot of
problems.
Mental.
Now, let's go for a quick break at this point, and perhaps when we return back, we'll have a deeper conversation around the effects of COVID-19 on children. You're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. Today, we're discussing COVID-19 and how it has affected children's life. Right. Let's go for a quick break. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, on a day-to-day basis, Whether it is in your bedroom, there is a law that governs it. If you're married, for example, even if you're single, there could be something touching on the law, because you might be in your bedroom with an underage girl, or you might be with another person's wife. All the things are the law.
If you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity. Freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave.
If you look at our penal code, it sets out another marriage laws. It sets out the persons who can marry and those who cannot marry, right? For example, you can't marry your close relatives. If you did, you'd be committing a crime.
The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how to worship, how many times a day. No, you have a right to work. A right to work. You have freedom of association.
Cohabitation for whatever period of time does not make you husband and wife, right? And that is why we emphasize to people that when the relationship is still hot, you must ensure that you do what? Marry.
Yes.
For human rights to be respected, protected, and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals, oxygen should be there, health workers should have gloves, teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television, coming soon.
Welcome back. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition, here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. Today we're discussing COVID-19 and how it has affected children's rights. And with me in studio is Ms. Sarah Awelo from the Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity, popularly known as UCLF, at least among the lawyers. So Sarah, welcome from the break.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we went for the break, we started the conversation around COVID-19, the action that government took to curb down the virus, and how it has affected children. You started from the angle of education. I'm actually started from church, understandably, because you're from UCLF. So we could carry on the conversation around some of the other aspects that COVID-19 affected for children's rights.
Yes, for example, now when the schools were closed, and now the ones who are supposed to be in P1 have been in P1 for the last 2 years. There are children who have never stepped classes since the government closed. And you see, there's going to be a big difference between the children, like children from that village and this one's from the towns. Yes.
City.
So there's going to be, I'll say, an imbalance. There will be something wrong with that generation. Okay, I don't know how to put it, but I think it will be like that because these ones, there are those who are studying, there are those who are not. There are those who can afford the private teachers at home, and there are these children who have been seated at home. I remember one time I was in Dokolo, and we asked the children, they came and told me, no, we can't understand English. We left those ones 2 years ago. And I'm like, okay. So I said, okay, can I give you a pen and you write your name? That, me, I forgot. You see. So there is that. And then when we come to the girl child, there are those ones who have gotten pregnant. Hey, it's a big number. Yeah. And I just thought, if 100 girls get pregnant, those are 100 people 100 men or boys who are supposed to be in jail.
I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Yes. See, every time I see it in my mind, I'm like, I just hope I get like 100 of those ones. They should be in jail. That's how it should be. Then there are those early marriages. Parents who have married off their daughters. So those ones are supposed to be in jail somewhere. So they're supposed to be in jail. Why? Because they are not protecting these children.
They are actually committing criminal.
Yes, they are committing more offenses. So for me, as I see numbers of girls getting pregnant, I keep wondering, are also that same number or more in jail because of the crimes they've committed, you know, and then there are those ones of child-to-child sex, and in my head I'm like, have they cancelled those ones? But you see, in Uganda we don't have those counselling services. The probation officers are overwhelmed also. But again, who cares to go to the probation officer to report or ask their child, like, oh, come and counsel, my child has been going through this. I'll give an example. In Kayunga, one of the boys was arrested for defilement. So I meet with this girl. In Kayunga, we handled, our work is mainly like with the state, with the state attorney. So I meet with this girl. I ask her, we talk. And she was like, no, I just want him to be cautioned. I'm like, are you sure? Wow. You want him to be cautioned, and then you want to go back to the same group. It needs a mindset. It took me, took us like 3 hours talking to her. And then I told her, so what do you want to become? She actually wanted to become a teacher. I'm like, so now when you get pregnant, how will you become a teacher? Because you'll have a child to look after. But for him, he will have to continue with his education and what. After some thinking, he was like, I need him to be kept away for some time so that my mind can rest.
Yeah.
So we need a total, okay, what COVID has brought has destroyed the mindset of children. That's what I believe. And we need a change in the mindset of the children, that it doesn't matter when schools are closed, you can still get a book and read. But where will they get the books also from? The libraries,
Are closed.
public libraries, do we even have them deep in the villages?
I mean, even in Kampala.
Even
I
in
don't know how
Kampala,
many. Yeah.
it's countable. And who goes there? Remember, there is no travel. When they closed completely and not moving everywhere, who will walk to come and get a book for the child to read? So we've had, COVID has brought a lot of negativity, I would put it, in the lives of the children. There would have been some positive things if the parents were sensitized early enough on how to raise children even when schools are closed.
Yeah. Sarah, you raised very, very touching, stories, which I know you've picked in the course of your work, and it's really chilling if you ask me. But I want us to have a conversation around the measures that government put in place to curb down COVID-19, and I'll ask you, how child-friendly were those measures? What's your assessment of, so for example, you're hearing of distribution of food, you're hearing about online learning, you're hearing about all these things that they put in place. How child-friendly, or what's your evaluation of those interventions? Let's start with the positives. What do you think worked? Yes, what do you think worked?
There's a positive, like thank you for those innovations like online schooling, but no, seriously, if you look at somebody in Dokolo, that's my village, so I can talk, and I know I have. They don't even have radios.
The government, I think, tried to give some radios. I don't know if they reached
never
Dokolo.
reached.
Oh, okay.
I heard they were going to give radios. Where it died from, I don't know. But it didn't reach. Then they started saying they would distribute the books, like some books to schools and what. But did those books reach to the village? You see, there is the village school. Then there is the village school. You get it?
Yeah.
Even in the village, there's a town and there's a
then
village.
There's a real village.
Yes. So there's that village school. Did it reach? Do those who don't even have clothes to put on, can they afford a smartphone? Can they sit and listen to UBC? Where will they get it from? I think it would have been, government would have just built a community place where children but that also would have stopped the COVID.
Exactly, social distancing
Social
issues.
distance.
Yeah.
So if you look at food, food was distributed, they gave milk.
Okay.
But you see, that food will not take the children for long. Let's say you distribute that food to a mother of 8 or 5.
Even just 3.
Or even just 3. Would that food take them? It wouldn't take them for long. I think, COVID surprised everyone. And I know the government was trying its best to provide for its citizens, and it tried. But maybe we need proper structures in the communities. We need the LCs to give us proper structures in the communities to say these are the number of children we have in the community, but these are their age brackets. So that even when the government is providing something, food, it's providing things, like during the COVID times, it knows that in this particular community, we have this number of children, these are their age brackets. So let's say between 15 and 17 or 18, these ones, let's provide them with, apart from sugar and what, I think they need pads, or they need this. So the government tried, but it had some up and down.
You talked about, food, milk. I was about to ask you if some of your relatives in Dokolo benefited from it, but perhaps that can be a conversation for another day. But Sarah, now you work a lot around juvenile justice, and I thought we could sort of pick your insights as well from the angle of juvenile justice. How did COVID affect that area? Because I know even before that, children already were having conflicts with the law. And like many people argue that COVID just came and worsened the situation. I don't know what your views you have around that area.
The juvenile justice. And children, the most children ended up going on the streets during this COVID time. They left school, they started looking for money. And I don't know how many will go back to school. We have parents bringing children to the organization for us to counsel them, because when they tried secondary, opened a bit the other time, the children didn't want to go back because now they were making money.
Oh, on the streets.
On the streets. Some of them, the parents took them to the garages to learn something, so they felt they have enough skill.
They've arrived.
They have arrived. They don't want to go back. And you find the parents crying, saying, let them go back for some medication and what. So there is that loophole going on that we need more guidance for the children at this particular time in this COVID-19. We are still in COVID-19 times. Yes, we are still in. And then what I've seen, there was a lot of violence in the homes and abuse in the homes. First of all, there was violence between the parents, but their escape route was school. When school got closed, they got entangled in the violence with the parents. And then they became the escape route.
Oh, for venting their anger.
Venting the anger. So they got all the pressure was thrown on them. They were beaten. When the mother again will blame, it's because of you, that's why I'm staying. So the child goes, Then the child is left. I remember one, Enoch, I won't give the other name, decided to even run away from home.
A child running away from home?
Yes, and he's 10.
Oh dear.
And then we had to counsel him. By the time we got him using police, he said for him he's tired of the work at home. It's routine. And he wants to also start going and playing with his peers. But the parents are saying, no, the peers go drinking and what, we don't want him to be a part of that.
Which is a fair point.
Which is a fair point. But I think for him, it's like, I'm tired of being in this thing. But
Four corners.
Four corners. And he comes from his parents drink also a lot and what, so they leave him with all the work. So he said for him, he's tired of the work, he rather goes on the street and vent for himself.
Sarah, some of the stories you're sharing are, quite chilling. Viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. Today we are discussing children's rights. How has COVID-19 affected the rights of children in Uganda? What do we need to do? How do we protect children further during these extraordinary times? Let's go for a quick break. When we return, we'll give a sneak peek into the future. How do we get out of the mess that we find ourselves now from the angle of protecting children? Let's go for a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television with me, Jonathan Ochom. Today we are discussing children's rights and how they've been affected by COVID-19. And with me in studio is Sarah Awelo, lead counsel for the GBV program at the Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity. Sarah, welcome from the break.
Thank you.
So we need to sort of look into the future. You've clearly given us really chilling accounts of the different situations children find themselves in because of COVID-19 and the different initiatives that, that government has tried to do, as well as parents. Now we need to think about anything that could happen 5 or 10 years from now, because we're not sure when the virus will come to an end. We don't know if anything else could emerge in future. So as a country, that calls for preparation. So now I'll now ask you, looking at what the government of Uganda has done, what lessons do we learn from this intervention, from the angle of protecting children's rights? And perhaps later on shall talk about recommendations. But what do you think we learn from our current intervention, our current experience trying to protect children amidst COVID-19?
What do we learn? We need everyone in the society to stand up, like to really get together and form a relationship. Doesn't matter the political party, whatever. We need to, religion, we need to first put away differences and come together and say we need to fight. We can't even fight COVID because we don't know much about it. But how do we protect people? Yes, they're saying immunization, but the children can't be immunized. And I was looking at children living with HIV, AIDS. During that lockdown, how were they getting their medication? It was hard. Then there were those children with cancer who were told to go back home. And then it is later that they started trying to get doctors on motorbikes to go and deliver the medication. But see, when there's a break in their medication, it brings more it brings more issues. And no one talked about the children who died during that time because of medication, not having medication in time and what, or who are falling back in their things. So we need to learn to have a standby. We have to have community, maybe say there are paralegal, paramedics in the communities, and these paramedics should reach out to it should be in every parish, every village, we should have paramedics, so that if something happens like this in future, we have our paramedics already to reach out to children, children with disabilities, children living with HIV, AIDS, even the normal children when they fall sick. You see, moving was that you have to go and get permission first. But if we had paramedics in the villages, it would be so easy. We wouldn't have this fallback a lot. And then maybe we should, even the parents who are not dedicated, I know they can teach math somehow. They would teach in the local language. Math can be taught in the local language.
1 + 1.
With the stones and what. But maybe we should try and get teachers and pay them more on hard to reach areas. They're saying paying the scientists, but also the art teachers. Because these art teachers are the ones going to teach English to the scientists.
And they need English to pass science.
They need English to pass science. So we need the art teachers also. But if we could pay them hard to reach area more money, just because they are in those communities, maybe build for them proper housing facilities, so that even when this happens, we have teachers who will go reach out to villages to see that the children are listening, or the children are studying at least twice a week. If a teacher appears before a child and they go through some of the it refreshes them and tells them, stay with this, next week I'll pass by. So we need that to keep people to reach out to stay in the communities.
What of in terms of juvenile justice, in terms of keeping children safe? From the law, ensuring that, you know, their rights, you talk about violence at the family level, you talked about environment and kind of things. How do we, in future, what do we need to do to ensure that if we find ourselves in this situation, this is how we shall protect children against sexual assault, for example?
We need to empower our local community, our LCs. And also first we need to empower the children. Do they know what the bad touch is? We were just trying to teach them before they went to lockdown. Where do they go? Do they know where to go to? Most of them are threatened after defilement. They're told, don't speak, or else we'll kill you, we'll kill your family. Then some of them, like this one who said, I was told to go, and they told him, you stand outside, we are going to give you a TV. But these thieves were coming to rob the grandmother.
Oh dear.
But they told him, we shall give you a TV where you'll watch every day. You don't have to ask permission or what. So they entered in the house for him. He stood to see that no one comes in. And then in the process, they killed the grandmother.
Oh.
So it was during the burial that he kept saying, but this one was the last to, these people entered in the house. Then they said grandmother has died. So they're like, how did you know? So he gives the story. So he was arrested and told to go and tell these other people, take us to these people. So the other co-accused were arrested. And maybe he was charged with murder.
Oh, the child?
Yes, because he was in the whole chain. But he couldn't understand it, you know. But, and he kept saying, most of them will call you auntie. Auntie, I didn't do it. I'm like, yes, you didn't do it. I didn't kill. I'm like, yes, you did. It is those ones, they entered. But if we could empower our children and tell them that they have this obligation. Yes, they have the rights, but they have the obligation. They have obligations to respect the society, respect their children. They have obligation to do work at home. They have, we have something we expect from them, even if we are giving them rights. So that they grow up knowing it's not about watching TV throughout. You have to also do something. Maybe that would help them. Not so that people do not sweet talk them. How are we talking to our daughters? How are we training our daughters? Will somebody give them, say, if you come and I do this to you, or I touch your breast, I will give you 500. And it's a coin, a 500 coin. And most of them can say, and he gave me a 500 coin to keep quiet. Or after being defied, it comes and say, they gave me 1,000. Is there a way we can teach them about value? How do they value themselves from young? You see, a child gets to understand from the time they are born. That's why they cry when they are hurt. So we need to teach value to the children from when they are young. But value is got if the person teaching them also has value. So do the parents have value to pass over? So should the government also? So we need to empower the local council to empower the community. We need to empower the religious leaders to empower the community. We also need to empower the witch doctors, the herbalists, and teach them, because you see, they are the ones who, when somebody is arrested, they will say, the witch doctor told me if I sleep with a girl, my problems will be solved. So if we teach these witch doctors that the law says, if they ever get you, if you are arrested, like even for sacrifice, child sacrifice, you will be penalized. You will be held for murder. You will go in for life. This is what the law says. There's a way they will trick. They will start telling the person, your problems will be done. Let me put something on your hands. And then you go and work. The person
just playing with your mind.
They just play with their minds and go. I had an opportunity of talking to a witch doctor.
Okay. You're seeking their services.
We were sensitizing.
Oh, okay.
And you see in Kayunga, they are so proud to come and say how they are witch doctors because they are really respected in the community.
Yes.
So I said, okay. So we kept talking, and then I told him, but now instead of giving these women who come and complain about their husbands, or the husbands come and complain about their women. So he says for him what he does, he gets it's a herb. It's actually a herb. And then he tells them when he starts quarreling, you put it in your mouth and bite it. So the lady keeps biting, so she doesn't reply to the quarrels. Then the man keeps quiet. And then she will start saying, oh, my husband actually changed. He stopped quarreling. But she doesn't know. It's because she did not answer back, so there was no one to...
There was no need for a fight.
There was no need for a fight, you know. So if we need also to empower them, the herbalist, the... You see how Mama Fina tries to help out, but if we empower her with the law, how much
information
more?
on the law.
Yeah, information on the law. Then she empowers her people. You know, so many people follow her. So we need to get those people who are the community blessed, like the community look up to.
Yeah. You mentioned about the child, you know, being charged with a criminal offense, and I thought perhaps we'll take advantage of your presence to talk about criminal responsibility for children, because there's always emphasis on rights, like you correctly said, but also to know for children to know that you have responsibilities even during COVID-19. You could just run up through about, you know, what's the law on, criminal
on children's
responsibility. At 5 years, do they become...
No. When it's 12 years and when they're less than 12 years, from 11, they are not criminally liable.
Okay.
But
so you can do anything in that age.
But you see there, we can get the LC to beat. I don't believe you just do something as a child and you walk away with it.
Yes.
No. But from 12, they are criminally liable, and they can be arrested. They're taken to the remand homes, and we have remand homes all over Uganda.
Yes.
And the main one means Camp Pilipisa. That's how they pronounce it. It's long.
Yeah. Is that on the Masaka Highway?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they are taken there, and they're taken. They are taught. They are taught on vocational training, making wood, tools, but they're trained from that side. Now they're taken to the remand home at Naguru, where they're also taught, but they are liable, but they also need to know that. So if we also teach them that from 12 years, we shall really jail you in the children's jail if you misbehave, then there is also, I think they will also change their behavior. But also these ones below 12, like from 11 downwards. May I believe a child will understand. We will not be like whites all the time and say you're going to be taken to a punishment corner and stand there. No, I think a few two sticks will get the person. Even the Bible says spare the rod and spoil the child. So we will not allow sparing the road, because as I started, we want our children are the future of our nation. So we are not going to let them get away with anything, but we shall stick, as the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yes.
No, we are going to see that they are all brought up in a godly manner, whereby in the future we shall have less corruption.
They're indeed the future.
Yes. If they have less corruption, they know the law. Yes.
Sarah, as we come to the end of this show, just as sort of your final concluding remarks, and how do we then get out of this mess as a country in 30 seconds?
How do we get out of this mess?
Protect children, yes.
And protect children. We all have to come together.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter about your religion, your party, your what. Come together. Let us see in each of our neighborhood who is a teacher in the neighborhood. We need to be the eyes of the parents in the neighborhood. Let us go back to saying it takes a village to raise a child.
Okay.
Don't let somebody's child be doing something wrong and you just say that's not my child. Take responsibility.
Okay, Sarah makes a very compelling point. We should take responsibility. We have to protect children during COVID-19 by following the law, empowering people with information so that they know that an extraordinary time like the pandemic is not an opportunity for you to exploit children, but rather to actually protect their rights. With that, we've come to the end of today's edition of You and the Law. I've been your host, Jonathan Ochom. Next week, we'll have another conversation on yet another human right which has been affected by the virus. Until then, bye.
Welcome to the program. My name is Eddie Okila, and of course my guest this morning on the CEO bench is the one and only Dr. Apollo Buregeya. Is that the correct spelling of your name?
Buregeya.
Buregeya.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the program, Apollo. And to everyone out there, we want to say thank you very much for joining us on the CEO bench this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending on which part of the world you are actually watching the CEO bench from. And I want to take you through very briefly. Apollo is the CEO of Concrete Limited. I'm sure you have seen it in Kampala, and he has a new baby coming up called Tofali Africa Limited. Apollo, welcome to the CEO bench.
Thank you for having me, Edwin.
You're welcome, and we want to start from a very lighter note of knowing who you are and where do you come from. Who is Apollo? Where do you come from? You know, what are your values? You know, are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan? Let's start from there.
Thank you, Eddie. Yes, I'm a Ugandan. I'm a civil engineer,
Yeah.
trained from Makerere, South Africa, and Egypt, and the CEO of Eco Concrete.
Wow.
Yes, we do construction. And the whole idea of Eco Concrete is that we make construction possible for simple people.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So,
And starting from there, I know you've started from that lighter note. So, Apollo, are you Ugandan? Which part of this country do you come from?
yes, I'm a Ugandan, both by descent
Yes.
and by birth.
Yeah.
By descent, I'm a Munyoro.
Okay.
It's a long story. My grandfather, great-grandfather, was separated from Bunyoro when Captain Lugard attacked Toro.
Yeah.
I think they had come, Kabarega, the king of Bunyoro,
Yes.
had sent them to occupy Toro, and then the king of Uganda went with Kasagama, the then king of Toro,
Yes.
to separate them, to recapture Toro.
Yes.
And when they recaptured Toro, it seems my great-grandfather was in Toro, and he was pushed to go and settle in Buheju.
Yes.
From Buheju, my grandfather shifted to Bushenyi.
Yes.
From Bushenyi, my father shifted to Mbarara.
Yeah.
So now I'm Nyankore.
Yes.
But I think I'm, by descent, I'm a Munyoro. So I'm a Ugandan. Yes, that's
Yes. From Bunyoro. Yes.
But I don't know my relatives in Bunyoro.
In Bunyoro.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how I am.
Okay.
So I can't get a wife from Bunyoro. Yeah.
Why?
They might be sisters.
Okay, because you don't know the relatives.
I don't know.
Well, it's a very important part in Africa that we actually get to know some of these things very well. Apollo, I want to take you straight to our next question this morning, which is really about knowing, you from the leadership perspective. The program you're on right now, the CEO Bench, focuses on leadership, change management, and transformation. And we want to look at transformative leadership approach that often defines the leadership abilities of a person. And these are frequently used, terms to define the level of effectiveness of a leader. You are an engineer, civil engineer by training, and you have been in this space for a while. What is your understanding of leadership, Apollo?
I think I will avoid sounding academic.
Yes,
I'll bring it down to simple terms.
Yes.
To basic motor porters, the space I manage.
Yes.
When you look at leadership, I think it's the ability to bear knowledge, expose that knowledge to the people that are under your docket, to have a positive attitude that will influence them to apply the knowledge that you expose to them. So leadership starts with knowledge. You display that knowledge, communicate it, give a word. It's actually communication, it's word. That word transfers power and transfers the attitude that you carry to the people that choose to follow you, that choose to believe in the knowledge, in the content that you have. And then by doing that, I think that is the space where leadership can be demonstrated.
Well, you've actually defined leadership in the level that we often want it to be. I mean, the translation of that word that goes to people, that often influence people to follow you, influence people to say, I think I need to, work with Apollo. I think I need Apollo as a person, is key going forward. And I think for me, that's the real definition of leadership going forward. Now that we've defined leadership, Apollo, by your understanding, we want to know, are you a leader?
I'm still under construction.
Okay.
You've seen the signage we put on sites.
Yes. Under construction.
Under construction. Yes, I am a leader. I have a family that follows me. I have a workforce. I think at Eco Concrete we are about 65 people. 15 permanent staff, and then the rest are on contract basis. And those people follow me, and that makes me a leader. So, and I tell them to do things they're supposed to do, and they do them. So, I think I'm a leader. However, I tend to define myself as an entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur, you are constantly in the space of change. You're constantly learning, you're constantly testing yourself, you're constantly testing the ideas that you have, you're constantly with people, you're constantly trying to sell yourself to people so they can get attracted to you and come and follow you. Yeah, so that is, I'm an entrepreneur. Leader, it's natural. It will come. Yeah.
Well, we can see from your background that your ancestry speaks a little bit more about leader when you talk about your grandfather and the migration and the things that happened in the days of the history of Uganda. We can see that there is a leadership, tendencies in your DNA. I want to go straight to self-leadership, Apollo. Quite a time, or quite often, we talked about leadership, but we don't know that leading self is the #1 leadership goal that everyone should look into. And self-leadership for me is very important. We want to just know from you, what is self-leadership? How have you been able to lead yourself from as an individual? First of all, what is your definition of self-leadership for somebody who is watching, who doesn't know what to do, doesn't even know whether they can lead self or not? Some people just wake up in the morning and follow whatever they are saying. Go and do this, go and do that. What is self-leadership to you, Apollo?
Here I'm going to sound a bit philosophical.
Please, go ahead.
Because yes, it's a good term to say self-leadership and self-control, self-manage, manage yourself to be able to grow and be disciplined, self-discipline. But there are two systems that run this world. There's what we call a complex system. There's what we call a complicated system. I want to break the complex system. I want to define them, give them the characteristics, and then try to show you that as a human being, you're actually not in charge. And therefore, to be able to lead yourself, you need to simulate your environment to put you in a space where you are going to find yourself where you want to be. That if the environment is not engineered, is not simulated, then self-leadership can just stop at words. You will not achieve the result you want to achieve unless the externals are fixed. So there are two systems that run this world. There is a complex system, there's a complicated system. A complex system is like human body, society, marriage, love relationship, your friends, business, weather, climate, complex system. Complicated systems are like this TV camera, a mobile phone, a car, man-made things.
Engineering.
Now,
is engineering a complicated system?
It's both complicated and complex. Now, the difference with these two systems is that if I'm driving a car and it gets a puncture, just 20 meters before it reaches a petrol station where a tire can be repaired, it's not going to say, let me shift my weight to the 3 tires and then move on, and then go 20 meters and then they fix me. No, it's going to collapse.
That's complicated.
That's complicated. And that means that complicated systems are predictable. I know how it will behave. Complex system on the other side, if I get some strain in my left leg, I'm not going to tell myself that now let me shift my weight to the right leg. It will be automatic. That means that we adapt. It's not a linear model that I can have inputs and guarantee results. Let me use this, demonstrate this with a simple example. You have a wife or a girlfriend. She checks your phone and then she finds a WhatsApp message from somebody saying, hi dear, and then there's war at home. And then you remember that, this wife of mine had asked me for a Mac X. And then you go and buy a Mac X, 60 million, give it to her. You have not communicated, resolved the problem, the difference. She goes and drives and goes show it off to her former boyfriend. So you've invested a lot of money, convince her to forgive you. You've not dealt with the problem. And then things escalate. She used to come back home at 5 in the evening. Now she's like, I have a Mac X, I can come back home at 10 in the night. The family is disorganized after investing a lot of money. But what if you started by buying high flower? You're like, honey, I'm sorry. 1,000 shillings.
Yes.
She looks at the flower, she doesn't accept, she throws that to you. You bring another one, a third one, the fourth one, she cries.
Yes.
She forgives you. 4,000 shillings. You have your wife back.
Yes.
60 million, you lose your wife. So complex system. For you to get results, you invest small things consistently. Develop a habit. I'm coming back to leadership.
Yeah.
Develop a habit. Give her a flower every day. She will love you,
Yeah.
even if you're poor.
Yes.
But for complicated system, if I want my car to perform well, I'm not going to take it to a washing bay. I'll go and buy a new engine.
Yeah.
So the more money you put in, the more inputs
Yes.
in a complicated system,
Yes.
the better, the higher the result.
Yes.
So now, when we look at ourselves as human beings, we need to appreciate and acknowledge that we are not operating a complicated system. So you're not going to sit here and say, yes, I'm going to follow this procedure, and then I'll wake up at 5. By 5:15, I'm taking coffee. By 6, I've seen those stories.
They are called routines.
Yes. A routine is going to frustrate you. So what you do is you want to develop small things around you, habits that are actually going to inspire you, to prompt you to perform certain tasks, and then in the process, then friends who are going to come and tell, I'll come and tell you, Eddie, next year I'm going to build a cement factory. People believe that when you say what you want to do, it's quite creepy, actually, weird,
Yes.
that don't tell
People
what you want to do. I find it funny. I find it limiting to even people who believe in God. That yes, you don't want to be attacked. Who tells you that there are people there wanting to attack you? And in that case, why do you want to rig systems? So develop systems around you that are going to hold you responsible, accountable, that are going to prompt you to act a certain way. So that you are consistent with your beliefs. Yeah, so that is it. You cannot have a formula and then you have inputs and you expect that you are going to.
So on that note, Apollo, for those people out there who don't know even where to start from, I know you've given a very good nuggets of truth about how you develop habits and things that will translate into being, that will help you to become a person who can pick self and give self meaning and define self. Says, what I hear from you, Apollo, is you're saying those small habits you're saying you developed will translate to things that you begin to do, that you begin to believe in, that is going to take you forward. And then you're basically going to appoint self, give self meaning, and start to work with self. Now, 99% of people out there, when we do research on leadership and change management and development from a personal point of view, don't know how to walk that step. It's easier, better said, but the actions are very limiting. Apollo, just before we go for a break, we want to hear from you. We see you on the street. We see you drive. We see you in the construction sites. We see you talk. You're always writing. And somebody out there who reads your poster wondering, how is this guy able to do it?
Even in flying school, I'm about to become a pilot.
A pilot as well. Now, you see all of this, Apollo, there's an element that the things they're talking about led you there. I want you to share this very briefly before we go for a break. The journey of Apollo moving from Apollo the child in Mbarara, somewhere with all the story you've talked about, to the journey of where you have reached, that point us to the level of this is how I found myself being led by myself to reach this level. That's somebody out there is looking for that information now.
I think you have to be ready to have scars.
Yes.
You have to be ready to enjoy failing.
Yes, yes.
You have to be ready and comfortable in failing.
Yes.
As you try to accumulate knowledge.
Yeah.
If you're not leading with knowledge, then you're not going to achieve much.
Yeah.
So it's knowledge development, trying out new things, failing, and being okay with failing, and then trusting people. And I found this challenging. It's a long curve. As you employ, as you delegate, so that you can grow and expand. You have to be in a space where you have to trust people and delegate so that you preserve yourself for the specific tasks that demand growth in knowledge. That's it.
Wow. Well, we're talking to Apollo, everyone out there, and I want you to get onto your mobile or your computer and share this information far and wide. We want you to actually write a comment, and kisses and disses are welcome. Apollo is definitely going to respond to you. And Apollo, Dr. Apollo Bulejia is the CEO of Concrete, Eco Concrete, and then Eco in itself means something else. And, Tofali Africa, we're going to hear more from Apollo when we come back from the break.
Le leadership, c'est quoi? Le leadership, ce n'est pas le fait d'intimider les gens ou bien de dominer les gens, non. Le leadership, c'est le fait d'aider les gens à suivre le bon chemin. Parce qu'il y a des gens qui sont là, ils ne savent même pas par quel chemin emprunter. Il y a des gens qui ont même étudié, mais ils ne savent pas quel business ils doivent faire. Maintenant, l'idée, quand tu rencontres une personne pareille, tu vas l'orienter. Non, tu peux faire mieux que ce que tu fais. Non, la peur que tu as là ne va pas te tuer. Tu peux aller au-delà de la peur. L'idée, c'est comme j'avais donné l'exemple, j'avais donné l'exemple ici en français, en anglais, pardon. La vidéo que j'avais vue à propos de chiens, il y avait un groupe de chiens au niveau du Canada et il n'y avait pas de l'eau. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il y avait la neige, il n'y avait pas la place pour que tout le monde puisse boire de l'eau. Mais il y avait seulement une petite place pour le boss que je vais appeler. Et il ne voulait pas que les autres puissent venir boire de l'eau, comme il était boss. Il intimidait les gens. Mais il y avait un petit garçon, un petit chien qui était là à côté. Il a eu l'idée de briser la glace là où il y avait pas, parce que l'eau était en dessous et il n'y avait pas moyen de boire, mais le petit chien a brisé et tout le monde a vu ce qu'il faisait. Ils sont venus, ils ont commencé à briser et tous ont profité avec l'eau potable. Et le boss était laissé comme un vaurien. Personne ne lui faisait encore confiance parce qu'il n'était pas là pour les aider. Il était là simplement pour le faire peur, les intimider. Mais l'idée, c'est quelqu'un qui est là pour aider quelqu'un à avancer jusqu'à son destin, à sa vision. Parce que nous avons tous nos visions, mais c'est la peur des fois qui nous arrête. Merci mon ami.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They have moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Eddie Okela, and this is the CEO Bench. My guest this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on which part of the world you're actually watching the CEO Bench from, is Dr. Apollo Engineer. In fact, it's Dr. Engineer Apollo Bwegeya from the Eco Concrete Limited and, of course, Tofali Africa Limited, the new bed. Apollo, welcome back to the program. Before we went for a break, we were talking about self-leadership, and I want to take you mind to our next discussion on this program before we go into, dig deep about, ECO. But first, Apollo, before we even talk about change management, we want to hear from you. Perhaps just share a little bit more about what is Eco Concrete and what services do you provide. You were nominated by a number of people and said, this gentleman is loud on social media, he's loud everywhere. Please bring him in, let him share, a lot of ideas that he has, or, a few things about constructions. And this discussion is going to gear towards the construction industry from a civil engineering perspective. So let's start from there.
Eco Concrete is a complex of three products.
Yeah.
We manufacture construction materials. We also construct, and we are also into ICT. We are trying to create digital tools that should make it possible for low-cost housing. Okay. Yeah. So when you talk of eco, of course, it comes from the ecology. Yeah. You're trying to be sustainable, yeah, green. You're trying to extract less from the environment to achieve the housing needs of our communities. So that is what inspires us. Yeah. But also we look at the people. We are about people. Eco Concrete is an employee-owned, managed, and operated company. Yeah. Each of our employees is comfortable where they are, that they represent Eco Concrete, and it represents them, it secures them. They are growing, they are learning. I am also a lecturer at Makerere, and last semester I taught 2 of my employees. They are doing masters. So I'm an employer who will meet my students, educate them, assess them. Of course, I had to first declare to my department that, yes, I have conflict of interest here. My employees are doing this course. I will teach them. Yeah. So we look at developing our human resource. We look at empowering them to make sure that we reduce on the cost of management, the risk of managing. Yeah. So we are about people. We are about our clients. We try to, all our clients actually, we don't believe in a client coming to us and they give us money and they go away. Yes. We actually look at construction as an opportunity to teach, to skill our clients, to enable them, to give them a platform where they can build a home, connect with their children, inspire their children to develop, to understand new skills. Yeah. So it's participatory, it's open source, and we intend to engage our clients to be part of the construction process. In fact, if you talk to our clients, they're part of our employee structure because they're the ones that buy their own materials. Yeah. Yes. So yeah. Then that is construction. Yes. Materials, yes, of course, that's where we shine on the ecological aspects. Yeah. Of course, we're looking at greening materials, both on the aspect of making durable materials, yes, so that you have more time before you go back to the environment to stress it further, but also less materials, high strength. Yes. So we are excellent in that, and we are very knowledgeable about it. You're talking about my PhD. My PhD is in concrete and cement. Yeah, and it's what we applied. We apply this knowledge to help our clients. Yeah. The third aspect, which is the digital tools, here we are trying to make sure that, of course, when you look at the cost of construction, almost, I'm quoting a World Bank's standard financed report. Yes. The actual costs of inputs in construction, yep, is actual at 43% of your budget of construction. Okay. Now, the balance, which is 57, accounts for the process of logistics, losses. We found that actually you are paying VAT, which accounts for about 14%. Now, if 14% or 43% is not 18%, so that means it's double taxation. So a lot of processes are going on that cause us to lose money, and we think that by applying the tools of the fourth industrial revolution, those are digital tools, ICT, I think we can streamline the processes of construction and understand where the problems are and refine them for our clients. And I think that's how we'll be able to achieve our objective of having low-cost housing. People keep talking about low-cost housing. We don't believe that low-cost housing should mean low-quality housing. We think the
quality... that is what we think is, when you say low-cost housing, it's supposed to be the cheapest material, No, material costs, normally, it's matter. Materials should be maintained at a standard quality, meeting standards, and actually when you look at cheap material, poor quality material, the components that make poor quality materials are the same components that make very good quality materials. It's just knowledge. So we want to excel in that, deliver high quality at affordable cost. And we want to attack the people. Indeed, when they talk about low cost, they target material. See, chifufu blocks. No, the enemy, the evil, is in the detail of 57%, which is in the process of construction that does not cover the inputs. So the inputs are okay. Well, Apollo, thank you so much. This obviously is a very interesting show today that we're having right now. I want to take you straight, Apollo, to... You speak very passionate about construction. You speak very eminently about construction and knowledgeable in that space as well. Let's go back to your civil engineering and the journey into the civil engineering space. Your CV talks of 20 years plus into that space. You have a master's degree and a PhD to show for it, and of course there's a bachelor there. Now let's go back to Apollo as a child. How did you end up as an engineer?
It's actually a long journey to become an engineer. I did not pass. I got some B's.
At what level of passing?
I got some B's, but then I had decided to do civil engineering. So I ended up going to do a diploma first. I didn't want to do another course, so I did a diploma.
But I want to take you straight back before you get to the diploma.
So
primary school, what were you? Were you playing toys, constructing?
I'm lucky. I was born privileged. My father had resources, and he managed to take my siblings and I to good boarding primary schools, where we passed. We went to Ntare School. The boarding primary school was Bwerenyanji. Bwerenyanji is a girls' school, secondary, but the primary school is a mixed school. Some of my siblings went to Nganwa Primary School. Those are schools, good schools in the western part of the country. So we came to Ntare. We excelled in Ntare. Senior four, meanwhile, would go back to the village. I had never crossed the first junction of Mbarara town, now Mbarara city, so to come to Kampala. So senior four, I decided I needed to come to Kampala. It was fun.
What year was this?
That is 1996. So I decided to come to Kampala. I remember the headmaster, because I was performing well in school. So the headmaster called me and told me, you're one of the people who want to maintain here, and if you don't put here your first choice, we don't want you to put your second choice. So I said, okay. So I put my first choice somewhere else. I had heard about Makerere College. I said, I'm going to come to Makerere College. I left Ntare, which was an environment that had helped me manage myself. to excel.
Yes.
I came to Makerere College, I found a different environment. They
Yes.
put me in a hall called Black House,
Yes.
which was in the center of Makerere University, and I would be locked inside, and I'm seeing university students having fun.
Yes.
So the environment changed, and I lost self-management.
Yes.
And therefore I did not perform well. But I knew what I wanted to become.
Yes.
So when time came for filling in the choices, I chose civil engineering from Makerere University, and then put zeros. You know, there were coding forms.
Yes.
So I put zeros, and my teachers called me, and I told them, no, if I don't get Makerere University, I'll go to Chambogo.
Yeah.
By then it was a polytechnic. I'll do a diploma in civil engineering, finish,
Then come back.
then come back. Indeed, of course, at
Was
all
somebody
level.
guiding your thinking around this
No,
area?
no.
Because you're
no.
quite young to be able to think.
No,
you're very definitive in that area.
I wanted civil engineering. I'd interacted with my uncle who was a quantity surveyor. He had convinced me that civil engineering is
The place to go.
is a very good course. It's the oldest course. It was the first course God
Yes.
introduced on earth.
Yes.
So I liked
Yes,
civil
yes.
engineering. So I went to Chambogo,
Yes.
spent my 2 years,
Yeah.
did a diploma. It helped me because when I came to Makerere then, I was mature.
So hold it right there. So you went to Chambogo University to do your
Yeah.
diploma.
Yeah.
This was because your first choice, your first love of Makerere University as a bachelor course did not come through.
Did not
in
come
your
through.
senior six.
Yes.
All right, let's proceed from there.
Yes.
Because I wanted to make sure this is clear, because most times those who are watching this program think that if you put your first choice as civil engineering and it doesn't come, that's it. Some people get frustrated, don't know where to start from, and give up and say, you know what, I am done.
No, of course, if you want to make good things out of your life,
Yes.
you must be patient.
Yes.
To respect processes. Some processes are long.
Yes.
You must be very patient.
Let's go back
yes,
to, yes.
Yeah. So I went to, by then it was Uganda Polytechnic Chambogo.
Yes.
99, 2001, I got my diploma, started working. I worked for 8 months. I was lucky I got an employer who was a graduate of Makerere University. He respected education. He employed me, empowered me.
Civil
gave me
engineering?
Civil engineering. He gave me projects. I did a lot of works in Western Uganda, Rakai, the water system, supply system of Rakai, the intake plant. I'm the one who did it as a foreman there. I was empowered. I did a lot of good projects. And I learned a lot because I was on ground.
Yes.
I was pushing wheelbarrows, seeing how they are breaking and wasting materials. So picking that skill, then I came to Makerere. I tried mature age entry. I was just becoming 25. Got admitted on government sponsorship. So when I reached Makerere at my age of 25, it was easy. I was mature. I was not excited. I started performing well. The lecturers also saw me as a mature person. They could communicate with me very well. I finished my bachelor's. I had experience. I enrolled immediately for master's. When I started master's, I was approached that I could start teaching.
Yes.
So I started lecturing at Makerere, got on board, finished, got some postgraduate diplomas in Egypt. I've traveled a lot, and then later I went to South Africa and did my PhD.
So all of this journey from Makerere University, when you finally came back for your bachelor's, you stopped whatever you're doing, the practical work. Did you stop at some point and went into teaching and skilling people and sharing that knowledge, or you continued?
I've never stopped construction.
Yeah.
I kept doing construction,
Yeah.
but I also love knowledge. So I kept reading, working hard, teaching, sharing knowledge, and I think the reason people recommended me for this show is because I share knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, so I kept sharing knowledge, I kept teaching, and of course, teaching, I liked it because it gave me an opportunity to grow more in knowledge. Yeah, so construction, yes, it was scaled a bit, but I kept my hands in the field.
Okay. You talked about Apollo just before we go for the second break. You talked about the water system and making sure that the Rakai part of the western part of Uganda leading towards the part of Tanzania, which, if I understand very well, the water system there, which means you were engineering at some point in water, and then you went into concrete, and then now I supposed we're going to see you in dams and power and whatever that is in that space. But my question to you, Apollo, why not road construction? Why not this other division of engineering? Why concrete and construction housing?
I think I chose concrete. I did a master's in water resources engineering. That's why many people know me
from the water part.
From for the information I shared about the water systems of Lake Victoria, and that was the master's. But then after what I found out at master's, I chose to do a PhD in an area where I could start with little capital.
Okay.
So to develop a company to construct roads, you need a lot of capital.
Yeah.
So I decided to focus on accumulating knowledge in an aspect of engineering that requires low capital to enter.
Yeah.
So that is what determined what I did.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We're going to take a break, Apollo, and when we come back, we want to look into change management. And the change management will look at the change and the development of management within self, a business, or a similar organization, or at the nation level. How would you help us to understand how have you been able to manage this within yourself? Obviously, you have a body of knowledge that not very many people out there have or would share, and you happen to be the second engineer in or on this program called the CEO Bench. The first one we had was the engineer Andrew Chitaka, the former executive director of KCCA. You happen to be the second engineer. So we want to take a break, and when we come back, we want to be able to dive deep into change management and management of change and the decision-making process before we wind up the show with transformation in the construction business, where we'll be able to show a little bit of your work so that people can actually understand that the stuff you're talking about, you are actually practicing. Stay right there. I'll be right back after this break. This is the CEO Bench, Ed Yokila, and Dr. Engineer Apollo Buregeya from the Eco Concrete, and Tofali talking about transformational leadership in the construction industry. We'll be right back after this.
You see, it's like a ship. You just talked about a ship. A ship without a compass in an ocean or in a lake will go anywhere. It has no sense of direction, no timing of where it's going and when it will get there or whatever. Leadership begins as a personal thing. The reason why we have a society that is getting messed up with so many things happening and we're seeing corruption happening is because leadership is failing from a personal level. You are corrupt as an individual and you pride in it because you're gaining more. You go home, your children are seeing that and thinking that is the way of life. Community and society is saying, this guy is a good guy, he's a rich guy, he's the man of society. And society is now beginning to agree to that being a norm. That's now where the problem starts. So let's just go back to your question. Leadership begins from your personal compass, your true north. Why are you on earth? What's your purpose? When you walk out of here, how do you impact on people? Or how do you want people to remember you? Nowadays people are dying, and all people can say is, we had a good time with that guy, but beyond that, what next? And then you find the same people coming to bury you, then after that they even actually have a drink up after that, and life goes on. You'll never be remembered. But just think about this, and let me just give you a simple example of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was a 4-foot lady, very short lady. She was a teacher. People think teachers have no impact. She was a teacher. On her way to school to teach, she was so disturbed by the number of young children who were hungry on the streets, having no sense of direction. One day, she just woke up, went to the principal and said, you know what? Kalas, I'm done. I am going to feed the children of the world. The principal laughed. He said, you small woman, first of all, what money do you have? You think feeding the world is? But when you think of Mother Teresa today, what do you think of? The woman who tried to feed the world. Her mission still exists way beyond her. Going back to the same principle of people. People and purpose. And you see, purpose cannot be from outside or without. You know, you don't tell me that this is your purpose, Otoa. No, it comes from within. And you know, leaders are very crazy people. Yeah? You know, it's the same Museveni who read a newspaper and he got pissed off and went and, you know, on the streets and went and joined the bush. Yeah. They talk about people like Fidel Castro and all these people who... Leaders are people who just get angry with what is happening and make a commitment to make a difference.
There's a lot that is involved in the civil society organizations. There's leadership in itself, there's management of processes, there's management of the human resource, there's fundraising, there's, you know, research. It's a lot that needs to be done. And many times there is a feeling that that is too much for a woman because she has other traditional roles that she needs to do as at home. Yeah. So many times as people are looking for leaders in civil society organizations, the priority is usually given to men because of our society that feels that men have the time, men have the capacity, men have the ability to lead, to take this organization to greater heights. And women, there will be a problem. They will have to go to maternity leave. They have issues. They are too emotional. They have not done the courses that are good enough for leaders. They don't have time to, you know, to go for extra, you know, learning or to go for work outside Kampala because they have to tend to their children. So there's too much that society has tied around a woman. And it's true, we have these traditional roles that we have to do, but does not in any way mean that women cannot lead in these spaces. No.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Eddie Okela and this is CEO Bench, of course, with Dr. Engineer Apollo Buregeya from Eco Concrete and Tofali, Africa. Apollo, welcome back to the program. Before we went for a break, we were talking about the journey of Eco Concrete and your engineering journey as well. What a very, inspiring story right there and journey. A lot of us don't know that walking through the process and not cutting to the progress is very important. We often, most Ugandans, most Africans particularly, we like to bypass process for progress. Your journey of saying, you know what, I want civil engineering, and if I don't get, it doesn't matter, I'll go through diploma and then come back to bachelor and then go up there. We can see the resilience right there. I want to, draw your attention, Apollo, to change management. And this program talks about leadership, change management, and transformation. Today, we are actually talking about change management and transformational leadership in the construction industry. And that's where we're going with Apollo. Apollo, change and management of change within self, business, and organization or the nation. What is your understanding of change management, and how have you been able to apply it in your journey to where you are? When people were laughing at you and saying, look at this one, he failed, and now you can't join us in this first year, and then you come back to Makerere when you're 25, and I'm sure you're employing some of these people. You even talked about some of your employers coming and you becoming a teacher to them. All of these are change management. How do you remain sane? First of all, what is your understanding of it, and how have you been able to manage change?
I think, Eddie, change, this is a standard statement. Yes. Change is a fact of life. Huh? Yeah. And we change to survive. You must adapt. You must change if you want to survive. Huh? Yeah. If you don't change, then nature...
They say change will change you.
Nature will eliminate you.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's natural that we change. Yes. In our biology, in our thinking, and in enterprises that we do. Yes. I did not start with Eco Concrete. I said I have so many scars that I carry to be where I am now. So change, you only remain ahead in change management when you are able to grow in knowledge. If you're not learning, if you're not growing in knowledge, then you're not going to find yourself in a space of stability in change. We need to also understand that change actually, especially growth, can destroy. That you can find an opportunity, take it up, but before you grow internally as a person, in knowledge and intelligence, and also understanding, and also scale your environment to adapt the new change.
Yes.
I think it's going to be very expensive for you to grow and embrace this opportunity, because it can lead to collapse. So it starts with you understanding that yes, you have to grow in knowledge, and you have to take time. And change happens in the complex domain, that things have to adapt. So you have to take time to understand the change you are getting into, and you have to be comfortable in this space of change, that when it comes, you do not become rigid. So you move quickly, you understand your resources, and then you start looking at what new resources you need to bring on board, and what resources you need to eliminate. Constantly we make friends, and constantly we drop friends. And we need to be comfortable about it. The friends you had in primary school are no longer with you. You have new friends. You are my friend now. A year ago, you didn't know me. So that is how nature is. A tree grows, loses branches. The branches feed this tree. But if it wants to grow tall, then you have to lose some branches and get new branches and move on. That's how you're able to manage change and stay on top of your game.
Well, thank you so much, Datun Apollo, for that. Now, change requires that you communicate. Have you been employed before, Apollo? And if yes, how were you able to manage the change, and the communication of that change from, a moment you say, you know what, gentlemen and ladies of this great organization, I think I have reached this moment where I need to move from this point to the next level. And please allow me this opportunity to go. Or you just come and say, I have outgrown this organization, I am done, I am going. The salary, first of all, is very small. That's how most of us say or do. And then we had Mr. Toa Tony here saying, I always make sure I communicate change management very clearly and manage the process of change very clearly so that I can go back to the same organization and be a consultant. And he said, I left Total Uganda and I went back as a consultant with Total and see where I am right now. But many of us don't know how to communicate this change. So there's that change from you as Apple. Have you been employed before? How were you able to manage the change from one place to the next? 2, we want to know from you, how do you communicate to a complex employer who you are everything to them? The moment you announce you are going, they make life so hard for you that you can't go. And they say you are never going to be successful in that job even if you go. So most people's dreams have died because they can't move. And then 3, change at the organization. Sometimes as a business owner, people just decide to leave you and you don't know how to manage change. And some people have just crashed, the business crashes and things end there. Let's dive into it, Apollo.
I think, Eddie, it's relationship you're talking about.
Yes.
First of all, if you have a healthy relationship with yourself,
yes,
if you value yourself, if you have dignity, then you're going to be in a space of work that relates well with you, that respects your input, that respects your word, that values you as a person, and also your skills and competences that you bring on the table. Now, that is a healthy relationship. If the relationship is not healthy, it's going to be a struggle. I'm still employed. I'm an employee of Makerere University. I still work there, and I still have bosses. And I told you when I had my employees in my class, I had to run to my head of department and declare a conflict of interest. And until they came to me and told me, you see, the law says once you declare the conflict of interest, make sure you are going to educate these employees and protect yourself. And actually, it was good. I was lucky I traveled to South Africa for a month. So I trained and examined when I was not around. So nobody accessed my laptop and saw my exam.
Yes, and said that, no, you cheated for your students.
So it starts with you valuing what you bring on the table. If you have value for your employer, then you're going to find it easy to communicate with them, to have your demands met, and find that you're comfortable. And then they will also be able to respect that as an individual you need to grow. I wouldn't work for somebody who is going to feel bad when I've left. No, I want them to wish me well. We train machine operators at Eco Concrete. And whenever moving around these new block yards, I find my trainees, former employees, running the yards, doing well. And for me, it's a celebration because why do we do business? If you define why you're doing a business, then you'll find that you're not going to conflict with your workers. We do business to add value to society. If it was that we want to make money, I would get my 20 million. I've met somebody. I have a client who I built a house for. She started with 1.5 million. She's a money lender. So she gave me 300 million. All of a sudden, go and finish a house. Finished it in 6 months. Nice house. She entered it. She started with 1.5 million. She doesn't have any human resource. She lends money. Simple. So if it was about money that we do business, then it would be easy. Wouldn't need to employ these people. But you're doing business to build society, to put your society above so that your children and the environment they grow in is a secure environment. It has a social aspect, it has an aspect that touches your country, so that you create jobs for people, so that people leave you when they are better than the way they came.
Yes.
So you don't want to hold on to a person. And if you are good, you're okay, your employees are not going to run away from you.
Yeah.
So I have employees who I've interacted with, I've related with, and trained, shared with. They are comfortable with my leadership, because when they run to me, they find solutions.
Yes.
As a leader, you must
be a solution finder and a solution giver for the people.
Yes, yeah. So they find solutions. They don't find me stuck.
Yes.
So, and I'm able to help them, empower them, grow. Yeah. So it starts with how you relate with your bosses. If a company does not value you, then you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So you're going to conflict. But if it values your input, then when time comes for you to go, they will tell you, we value you, we appreciate you, we think you've grown, we think you're going to contribute to where you're going. Yeah. So I don't find it a problem. It's an issue of relationship and communication.
Wow. Apollo, that said, and I just want to read you a couple of comments that came a little bit earlier when we were talking. One gentleman said from the US, thank you very much, first of all, for coming to the program. He said that he was at Makerere with you, and he finds you a very switched on person of your time, or of our time. But he had a question. And he said, ask Apollo, a lot of buildings have been collapsing in Uganda. As a civil engineer, what is causing many of these buildings collapsing in Uganda? And people have lost their lives. It means that the engineering system in Uganda either doesn't work, according to him. Of course, now he lives in the US. That's a bit of a harsh language. Or for engineers, or people just don't know what to do, what is right. And so he said, my question to Apollo is he's a very refined speaker, he's talking a nice stuff, think we should hear. Why is he not in this organization or working for KCC where the buildings are collapsing? Yes.
But it's change management.
Yes.
I think we need to appreciate the level of commerce we have in our society, and how commerce affects everything.
Yes.
When you go to Dubai, they are putting up mega structures, very good infrastructure, 21st century quality. And it's because they have a stronger commerce.
Yes.
They have more money. When you dig deeper, you'll find that the people that are building these tunnels under the oceans are actually engineers from the Netherlands. They are porters from Bangladesh. It's foreign labor.
Yes.
And the Emirates, I don't think they have a university that produces excellent engineers. I haven't heard about one.
No.
However, as a lecturer at Makerere, we produce refined engineers, very good quality engineers. But you're putting them in a commerce structure that is struggling. And because it is struggling, there are things that are going to go wrong until we improve our commerce to be able to afford processes, to be able to afford regulation. For example, taking you back to the smallest, we make cement to a standard, which is a European standard. And then we use that cement to bond chifufu bricks. Bricks that are produced in a swamp, not following any quality management plan, not produced to any standard. Yet we have a standard for bricks and blocks. So now, when you look at getting a good material which is standardized, and you combine it with a material that is not standard, then the output, which is a house, which is your desired goal, is not going to be a standard house. It's going to be very hard for you to control the quality of the house that you put on the market. So that is, it's a problem of commerce. The second problem is the problem of technology, and I've emphasized this a lot, that we are in Africa with our commerce, but we do not own our technology, we do not own our knowledge. We import both knowledge and technology here, and we make a mistake of importing this knowledge and technology that is designed for a commerce structure of Europe. Let me give a simple example, which I keep sharing. You have, let's take Germany.
Yes.
A bag of cement in Germany, high-end, good quality cement. We achieve here, we buy at 48,000 shillings.
Yes.
It was going to go for 3 euros. 3 euros, that's about 12,000 shillings.
Yes.
So somebody buys a bag of cement in Germany to construct at 3 euros.
Yes.
Here, you're going to buy it at 11, 12 euros. Yes. When you hire a mason in Germany to consume that bag of cement to construct a wall, you're going to pay them 25 euros per hour. So they're going to spend 2 hours consuming one bag of cement of 3 euros, and they will charge you 50 euros. 2 hours. So for them, the motivation for making standards, for making technology is no longer material minimization. It is labor minimization. Actually, labor elimination. So they go and say, let's have a machine that does work for a human being. Let's print houses. Let's eliminate labor in carrying concrete. Let's make concrete pumps. Let's make these machines. One person should do work of 50 people because they are fighting the 50 euros against the 3 euros. Now, to adopt this technology, you need to lift the cost of 3 euros up higher. They don't mind making cement 6 euros. How do you make 6 euros? You're adding in some chemicals to make that cement usable in the technology they have made. So you find if you're making concrete, to pump it, you need agents that stabilize concrete so that the water and the sand and the stones do not mix. So you need some starch, some agent that's going to hold the concrete together. You need chemicals that are going to reduce the water. You don't want too much water, otherwise as you pump, water is going to go alone and then stones stay alone. So you need what we call water reducing admixtures. You need super plasticizers. You need so many things. Now this technology costs $1 million to have. So when you go and buy this technology from Europe and bring it here, where now cement is 11 euros, labor is half a euro, you're not making sense. So you come here, labor is cheap, so you put a million here. If you're going to add in the chemicals to make your cement usable in the technology you've brought from Germany, it's no longer going to be 11, it's going to be 22 euros. Now, you already have $1 million you've invested in plant, the cost of money is also added. So what we see is that some of these ready-mix plant concrete providers are trying to take shortcuts because there's pressure to recover money. Yet I can make concrete on site with the mix of 100,000 shillings. So the same product can be made with 100,000 shillings technology. Yet you have $1 million technology, and it has a demand that you have to recover. The money.
Because the investment here, the capital investment here is very intense.
Yes, and the motivation for this investment makes sense because somebody was fighting the 50 euros. So when we do not possess our technologies, and then also the standards are the same. For example, when you look at in construction, guy will come and tell you we need steel bars in kilograms. If you look at the invoice from roofings, it's set in kilograms. So a guy will tell you we need concrete in cubic meters. But when you reach on site, you're buying bags of cement, you're buying trips of sand. So why should I give you concrete in cubic meters? Why don't I break it into bags of cement? The reason is that process adds in labor. So they want a process, in Europe, they prefer a process that eliminates labor. Go to a batching plant, buy concrete. Don't buy cement bags, But that's not how our commerce structure is. And therefore, we need processes, we need standards, we need systems that are going to empower us to make savings. And that's where our digital platforms come in to make sure that, because we understand the commerce, that's where they come in to make sure that we actually save people money.
Wow. Well, we are on the CEO bench with Apollo engineer, Dr. Engineer Apollo Burigia from the Eco Concrete right there, talking some really serious stuff. Apollo, our time is fast spent, but we're going to end up with transformation. I already have a very interesting comment here saying, Edukiller, I already vote that gentleman to come back to the program. That process he has talked about is what we need to talk about. Can we have engineers come and talk about constructions? I have had a situation where I've lost a relative in construction, and it wasn't okay because people were not giving us the right information. Why is it that people like this gentleman on the show are not there? We can't see them when we're looking for them. So maybe Apollo, you guys in the engineering world need to be able to do something that allows the common man watching the program to actually understand. I've got a very interesting message here coming from Edwin. Another friend of mine, Edwin is a very serious guy, lived and worked in Germany, says, thank you very much. What he has said is on point. That is how things here run. In fact, construction here is done by self. We do a lot of DIY.
Do it yourself.
Yes, do it yourself. I think it's the meaning, but DIY, do it yourself. And he's talking about it and says, but in Africa, everything is dependent on the person. And sometimes the cost of hiring the person is less. Here, the cost of hiring a person is 10 times. So it's better for you to get some of these skills. Can we have what they are talking about continue? Now, my question to my friend right there, Apple in the show, engineer, thank you very much for coming. Is Makerere University actually working hard to make sure this is sorted? Perfect. I think he's looking forward to the answer of, do we have some of these things coming in place that you're talking about? And if I understand his question very well, he's saying, why is it that Makerere University is not translating this to the reality of what you're talking about? And then the next question that has come in is from another gentleman. He says, thank you very much for bringing Apollo onto the program. I think for me, as an engineer, this is my best program so far. I enjoyed the interview with Engineer Chitaka. It was a great interview. Good to have Apollo there. My question, though, goes to Apollo. As an engineer, we don't like to support each other. I don't know whether Apollo is open to somebody coming for mentorship at his place. Now that he's a lecturer at Makerere, perhaps he would be the best place to start from. All right, Apollo. As you can see, already people, talking about this. But I want to take you straight to a systematic identification and implementation of necessary changes that you're talking about within self, business, and a similar organization. And we'll close this with what is your understanding of transformation? We're talking about transformation in the construction industry. Okay, and you obviously have a transformative leadership approach in the construction industry. Apollo, question is, how do we implement the things you're talking about? And we want to show some of the work that you're talking about so people can actually see it and relate to it. And you'll end up by taking us through a process of, when you talk about concrete, putting the foundation. I have a question here where somebody says the foundation of the buildings in Uganda are always not done very well. And that's a problem itself. How do we get that sorted out? But first, dive into it. Controlled identification, systematic identification and implementation of the things you're talking about.
I think you have to start. You have to start, accumulate knowledge, understand that we are actually at a stage in life, as Africans, as Sub-Saharan Africans, a stage in life where we are going to shine. All these challenges we have are also opportunities for us to embrace, and that's what we are doing at EcoConcrete. Make things understandable, communicate the change that you want, communicate the transformation that you want. Let it be with your employees, let it be with your clients, promise them something, because nature is that our minds ask for what they know. So educate the transformation that you need to see. Transfer it into other people's minds so that they see it. Once they see it, then it's going to be easy for you to ask for resources to implement it. I think it's start and then be innovative. Understand your environment, understand your resources, communicate well, and then also get exposure. Be exposed. The moment you go out, you are able to understand what other people are doing within the environments, how they're adapting the environments, and then you're able to relate with the environment and understand how you're going to adapt with the environment. So that is what we are doing at Eco Concrete. We are trying to reach our clients, and some of our clients, we refuse to do some things because we know better. Yeah. And some of them come back to us and they're like, okay, we prefer that you give us what you said you'd give us because of this. Others go and when you take shortcuts and then they call us later and it's very painful. Recently I visited a school. They used this common construction technology of method of using pipes, hollow pipes, and then you weld them together and form beams and wood, and then you cast on top and move. And they did 2 floors. They wanted to add on the 3rd floor. And because the people who are implementing this method do not follow a certain design criteria, so once the building became tall, it was a narrow building, a classroom, 2 levels. I think it had some lateral movements. And once it had these lateral movements, remember these are sections, pipes welded onto each other. So, and then you're filling them with blocks.
Disaster in waiting.
So cracks happened. So I went there, they called me, they're like, the engineer disappeared, he's no longer in the country. We don't know where he is, and then we want to know whether we can add on to this structure.
But it's already wobbling.
Yes. So my advice to them was people could understand. So told them the moment you add on another floor, the dancing will increase. And therefore these cracks are going to open wider. So doing things without those are our challenges. Doing things without proper thinking and designing. So we need to engage. We need to be able to share these transformations we want to deliver and get people to understand us. Once people understand, they will follow you. The movement.
There was a question about mentorship. Are you open for mentoring somebody?
We are growing very fast. We want to relate with people, especially technical people. So if there are people who believe they have some skills they want to apply and they want to be guided on developing those skills, yes, we are open to them. The first skill, I don't know whether it's a skill, it's attitude. When somebody has very positive attitude, we welcome them, and then we'll create opportunities for them to grow, and we'll teach them. I am open source. I share knowledge. I believe that that's how I can only immortalize myself, by making sure that what I know, everybody else knows it. So we are open for mentorship.
Well, thank you very much, Apollo. It's the CEO Bench and Dr. Engineer Apollo Buregeya from Eco Concrete right there talking to us on the CEO Bench this particular edition. Apollo, before we go, close the show, we want to go through some of your work. It will be a disservice if we bring you on the show and we don't see the processes you go through. And we want you to take us through these processes so that people understand. You're a concrete expert. That's something that we have finally been able to identify in this program, not just by the fact that your CV talks of it or your profile talks about it, but by practice. We want to put some pictures up and you take us through. What is a typical process of building a house that will stand and last eternity? Buildings have collapsed in Kampala. The biggest questions here have been about building collapse in Kampala. Start, for example, that picture right there. What's going on? I don't know whether that is the first picture, but we'll start from there and then go through all of them until we see a building that is actually complete. Take us through.
I think here we are finishing a foundation.
Okay.
Yes, and trying to deal with soil around it.
Yes.
You notice the ground floor slab is already cast.
Yes.
The foundation is below, and then we have some columns up, and we are going to the next slab.
So what is this gentleman doing?
This gentleman is trying to backfill and compact. I think at that point he was trying to open the bars to create an extra column that starts at that point, support to reduce on the span. At some point we realized that we could reduce on the number of bars in the beam up by creating a short column and making the the costs lower for the client.
And the next one, if you look at the picture, which is coming the next picture.
It shows that, yes, we work hard.
Yes.
We work.
Yes.
There's no shortcuts. We are people who are courageous, with light in our competencies, with light in our knowledge. We want to. We don't take shortcuts.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So that's Bwaji. That is one of my good foremen. He's now in Gulu building a hotel, which is going to be a good hotel.
Okay. So we see this building now beginning to go up there. A lot of building that has collapsed whenever they go to this past stage.
Yes.
What is your say?
Of course, from the perspective of concrete, you want to manage quality. If there is a quality management plan on a site, it starts with design. You know that the designs are good, and then you look at the quality of the materials that are being made. You make sure that the quality of materials is right, and then, of course, in a construction business, like any other business, you're relying on people. You rely on the processes, then you have materials. So the people also have to be the right people who are going to deliver good quality works. Yeah, so we look at the people, we look at the design, we look at the material and how we manage the quality of these materials to make sure that nothing escapes us. Yes.
Apollo, a lot of some of these questions we're talking about, thank you very much for taking us through that. But there are some pictures we want to go through the process and see when the building actually moved from down to the first floor to the ground floor. If you would just take us through this, what level of this is for somebody who is constructing?
This is a basement.
Okay.
After we put a ground floor slab, which was at a level of the upper side, and then after the ground floor slab, first floor, second floor, and third floor.
So now this is the level which is very complex. Normally it collapsed here.
This is the basement slab. Ours do not collapse because we know what we are doing. Yeah. So that is me there, trying to meditate on the plan to make sure that no mistake is done. Yeah. So that was the basement, the ground floor slab that we are casting, and then this building is continuing up to 11 floors. Yeah. So that's why the columns are big. Yeah. So this is a project in Chisenyi. It's under construction.
This is going to 11 floors?
No. This is 7 floors.
Okay, and then you look at the next building there. So this is a commercial building by your standards. So this is basically, how do we get to this point?
This is a residential house. The owner is in New York. He trusted us. We delivered. He came and got married, and we had a party there, and he left the country now. He's back in New York. Yeah, so, but a Ugandan.
Okay. Yeah. And finally, Apollo, what would be your final parting shot today to all of us watching the program all across, from one, as a teacher, 2, as a CEO, 3, as a person who like to share knowledge with people? What is that one thing that you want to leave us with on this program that we will remember you for, and we can start practicing based on the leadership, change management, and transformation we've talked about, but also from the, your experience as a CEO, employing over 60 people, and as well as teaching millions of people at the university?
I think, Eddie, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I want to say that there's a saying that a single raindrop never thinks that it is responsible for the flood that we see in the valley. I want to encourage people that we all matter. We all have a responsibility to improve the quality of life we have as Ugandans, especially, but also as Africans. And that greed, corruption, praising illegitimacy will end up actually punishing ourselves. We end up killing ourselves. We end up squandering the opportunities of the people that will come in future. We need to know that just like a single drop of rain contributes to the flood, we need to have a mindset that is going to be focused on contributing to a flood of positive transformation of our society. Start by appreciating that you need to change your values, be honest, work hard, don't cheat, don't take shortcuts, because when you do, if now somebody entered here and gave you $1 million, it confuses you and it gets you disorganized. But if you've earned it, then your internal environment prepares for it, and then you find you in a comfortable space. So as Ugandans and Africans, we need to choose to work hard, avoid shortcuts, take an organic path. It gets us there.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Apollo, for, first of all, accepting to come on the CEO bench today, and thank you for sharing your experience and your journey with us and giving us opportunity to be able to listen to you. I want to say thank you very much to everyone out there for coming onto the program today and giving Apollo the opportunity to speak and giving us the opportunity to share with Apollo. And it has come to that moment where we have to spread the love. So there's something we do here where we state and spread the love to people. We have to do it one more time. It's brought about by Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe. He says, spread the love whenever you come into the program. The CEO bench has come to an end. Thank you very much, Apollo. And looking forward to sharing a lot more with you. Share it far and wide. We'll be right back with the next episode. And of course, Apollo is going to be coming back onto the program. He already has some nominations. So say it far and wide. Edio Killer. Dr. Engineer Apollo Buregeya signing out from the CEO bench. Until then, keep it locked to the CEO bench.
Yes. Can I go with your jacket now?
I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? Change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SEAL Uganda on number 0772443085, or check our website www.sealuganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jean-Paul Olowo, on Instagram, Jean-Paul Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's book face. Why are you on book face? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Okola erinnya kulinga nfudu ate okulyonoona munya musubi si kya kabi tusabe omutonzi atusomose awabi naffe tweyambe munno mu kabi avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba erinnya lyo alyonoonye yawamba avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba olwatuuka oluganda ng'otulabira long ego echanna mukaka waliwo Land Road go bayitanga seeka yali mukwata mpola nnyo nga mu kubanjeza enjuta ku kaka yes nali mpankisa uwe waka ng'omwezi gugwako nga tukyaseka eyo ewamuzeyiseeka nga tewetugambula okuba kubanja nze nenanca twacacyanca kanyama yake tulya ku kyenkya lwali lumu omu kubapangisa yasiwuka empisa olw'engeri gye yeeyisa yaduka ne sente z'obupangisa emyezi 2 teyakwatibwa kisasibwa kisa lwe lwasemba Land Road waffe otukwatibwa ekisa wowe yamamba kumaganya ekyalo abantu bakusongamu olugalo yegwe kyalo ku kyalo abumaganya ekikaatu munoonye nalo yamamba abumaganya ekyalo abantu bakusongamu olugalo yegwe kyalo ku kyalo abumaganya ekikaatu munoonye nalo bandi mukukuuta era nga gyendaga natera okutuuka nempulira awogana nenkyuka okulaba anyirira agudde mu kinnya ng'akibuuka teyakisuka mu bimpimpi takibuuka nze nasookayo okumuyamba n'akibuuka masina fulumya kigambo nansooka kumanyi yegwe Sylvester mwayimba akaseera akayimba kanyuvu bambi onyirira olabika kavu kambuuze ofaayo bwe twemanye nnyo ebikukwatako nfaayo nnyo kituufu ddala bampa akaseera naye tebyagenda bulungi olw'embeera mbamanyi abayimbi muli benzi nesonyiwa nafuna eddenzi erimponya abateezi avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba erinnya lyo alyonoonye yawamba avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba erinnya lyo alyonoonye yawamba okola erinnya kulinga nfudu ate okulyonoona munya musubi si kyakabi tusabe omutonzi atusomose awabi naffe tweyambe munno mu kabi abamu ensonga bagikutteka na bwala okolebwako tebakulinda kwala tereera nga tonnasimbibwa njala ogwera mu kadukulu ebibbe tebyala n'abavubi bakoye envubu embi ab'obuyinza bali mu kuwonja bamulya buto emiti emito gigigumiza ekibira omulanga guve waggulu paka ku bato olwaleero mukitegeere si buli alyezize kyappanzibe kuba buli ava mu kiyaye timuyaye si buli afande kyali enguzi ebyo bye byange avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba erinnya lyo alyonoonye yawamba avumaganya ekika mulya mamba ali wonna mulya mamba weerwaneko mulya mamba erinnya lyo alyonoonye yawamba.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television.
COVID was not expected by many people early last year, because I think when it was happening in the Western world, everyone, probably distanced themselves.
Yeah, it was a Chinese problem.
Exactly. Some people would easily say that God was probably punishing those guys in Europe and the Western world generally.
Yeah.
But the situation changed rapidly, and it came down to our doorsteps here. It came down to Africa. It came down to Uganda, and we all know what happened.
It's You and the Law here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host. You and the Law is simply what it says, You and the Law. It's a program that seeks to explain the law to people in this country, demystify the different concepts of the law, make people understand what the law is, how it affects their lives, and really to ensure that we keep ourselves on the safe side of the law. Because as you all know, ignorance of the law has never been and will never be a defense. So whether you're a teacher, whether you're a border rider, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a farmer, anything that you could be in your life, the law affects every aspect of our lives. So that's why we have this program to basically enable people to understand the law in its different formations and how it impacts on our lives. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us who will be helping us understand a couple of things about this program and the ideas that we are flaunting for you, the viewers of House of Talent Television. Our guest is a very outstanding and fairly young lawyer. He's a law lecturer. He's practiced law for the last 8+ years. He's taught law in different universities. He's been in leadership in this country, and he's best suited to steer this conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the one and only Emmanuel Elau. Emma, you're welcome to You and the Law.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the nice introduction.
In House of Talent, we always have to do the fist bump and we spread the love. Yeah, it's just our way of trying to survive in these COVID times, because we're told that we can't be touching ourselves and stuff like that. Yes. So Emma, I know that you do so many things in this country. You teach law, you practice law, you run a startup. So I thought perhaps we could start by having a sneak peek into the work that you do as a lawyer, as an innovator, just to set the ball rolling for us.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, I do all the things that you have mentioned.
Yeah.
Been a lawyer for quite a while now, since 2014.
Oh.
So quite knowledgeable about the law now.
You're no longer a young lawyer.
No longer a young lawyer. I'm off that bracket.
Okay.
But of course, always willing to learn and contribute to the society in different ways, like you've stated. And so that includes also, as part of the pro bono work, to uplift people's understanding of the law, teach them what the law is, and this has been appreciated, in different quarters in this country, For example, last year, our organization, that is Legal Hub Uganda, won this LACON Award. LACON, that's the Legal Aid Innovations Conference.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're the best. That was in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the work is much appreciated now.
You mentioned Legal Hub. I thought maybe you could spend a little bit of time to, explain to us what Legal Hub is all about. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Legal Hub Uganda is a non-governmental organization.
Okay.
This organization was conceived as an idea around 2017 and registered as a company limited by guarantee. And we went on to register as a non-governmental organization in 2019. So since then, we have been contributing to this country in different ways, using the radios, visiting schools, going into the community in different ways. We have, for example, utilized radio stations in this country, several of them, and I believe people across this country have heard about Legal Hub Uganda and what we have been doing.
Yeah, I know that you also have a little bit of interest in innovations as an organization. Could you sort of try to shine a light on a couple of innovations that Legal Hub has been pushing across the country?
Yes, thank you. So one of our biggest innovations, to date, has been the legal podcast.
Yeah.
So if you're very common on Facebook, on different platforms, you're able to see that we're doing a legal podcast. I believe we're the pioneer podcasters in this country, at least in the legal sense.
Okay.
So this podcast has been recognized by The Hill. The Hill is the Hague Institute, for innovations of law.
Yes. Yeah.
So we competed, and we came out as the best innovators in 2019.
Okay.
And as a result, we also represented Uganda. We're among the 3 that represented Uganda at The Hague. That's in the Netherlands.
Very important milestones that you raised.
Exactly. So we're able to compete with the world, to showcase the world what we are all about, and things like that. And of course, we have kept the podcast running with support from different quarters of this world. So that's why I was saying earlier that we have been able to even win the LACON Award.
Yeah, which is very big, especially for the country.
Yes,
because it's
so
a national sort of system.
Exactly, and of course, every day we continue to innovate ways that we can reach, different people in this country. And our major interest is the last mile in this country.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us, moving forward to ensure that the last person in this country understands the law.
Until we take the law to the last mile.
Exactly.
So that brings me sort of to this question around then you and the law, because clearly it seems to be a contribution to your mandate of taking to the law to the last mile.
Yes.
So you and the law, as a program that we're designing in partnership with the House of Talent Television, could you just sort of give us an idea what it's all about?
Yes, thank you. So again, because of our innovativeness, right? We have been able to be recognized by different people. And recently, we were one of the winners, under the I4C challenge. That's Innovation for Change, So under that project, one of the things that we thought of was to bring the law to the TV audience, in this country. And again, I believe this is also pioneering in different ways, because other people simply discuss the law from the surface, So we want to unpack the law, to the TV audience. Because I believe the radio will be focusing more on the people in the last mile, But
the TV audience is a bit.
So if you come to Kampala, you realize that the majority of the people only listen to the radio in the morning when they're driving to work, and the evening when they're driving back home. And at that point, someone is a bit anxious, going to work and coming back. So they basically want to listen to music, So we want to see how we can take this television to their offices, to their homes, at their own convenience, So that's why this project comes up, And so we have designed a number of projects, a number of topics that we want to handle under this. So there'll be a COVID edition, but generally we'll be discussing other aspects of the law like you had rightly introduced.
Yeah. So I thought perhaps, I know you've sort of given us a sneak peek into the future, but I thought we could maybe start by revisiting, you mentioned COVID.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why is it important to actually have a conversation around, COVID and the law? Because this is you and the law, and then suddenly you're talking about, COVID. Some because, COVID is a medical issue. Why are we discussing it in you and the law? You should be telling us about theft, you should be telling us about murder and things like that. So could you sort of try to give us that intersection?
Yes. Now, that's a good question. First of all, COVID was not expected by many people early last year, because I think when it was happening in the Western world, everyone, probably distanced themselves.
Yeah, it was a Chinese problem.
Exactly. Some people would easily say that God was probably punishing those guys in Europe and the Western world generally, But the situation changed rapidly, and it came down to our doorsteps here. It came down to Africa, it came down to Uganda, and we all know what happened, The country was closed down. Among the first times that the president had addressed the country, he reached a point where he closed the land, air, and all the borders basically in this country.
So basically,
So we're locked up. You couldn't
no
go out.
No entrance, no exit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And alongside that, they curtailed our movement at some point. They said stay home, Workplaces were closed, People were staying home. I know that different kinds of problems occurred, Husbands and wives were staying indoors for 24 hours. So you can expect that there'll be domestic violence.
I would expect them to burn.
On the contrary, no. Because then you're seeing, you're confined to this house for 24 hours.
Yeah.
You're looking at each other. At least when you're working, you're able to go and cool off in case of any disagreements. So during that COVID period, and we're still of course in that period, there was a lot of domestic violence that was realized, for example. And that is a legal issue. People had mental issues. That's just a legal issue in some ways. Children stayed at home, and up to now as we speak, children are still at home, and so that means that their rights to to study, to education, which of course has its own technicalities, but that children are still at home and they are losing out so many months and years.
Then on Sundays and Fridays, people can't go to.
You can't go to church or to the mosque. That's also a legal issue. In the first lockdown in 2020, government had to step in and provide food, because people were no longer working. A majority of our people, especially here in Kampala, they live hand to mouth. So these people go to town, they work their money, go home with a kavera. Those kaveras will no longer have coming,
A kavera is a polythene bag. Just
exactly.
In case, Some viewers may not understand. Yeah.
Yes. So that means that the right to, to food, was affected. You couldn't move. Your right to movement is affected. The government came up with regulations saying that, for example, you can't spit in public, and indeed those regulations are still here. If you spit in public, you're committing an offense,
I wonder how many people know that.
Exactly. So COVID has impacted life in ways that we didn't imagine,
Basically, there's been a close fusion between COVID and the law.
Exactly. And it appears this situation is not likely to change even after we recover from the pandemic. Because in some places you've heard them talking about COVID passports.
Oh, yeah.
In Europe, in South Africa, yesterday I was seeing they're trying to introduce a COVID passport. So that means if you want to go to the market, you should show that you've been vaccinated. So what is the implication of that on your daily life?
We'll pick on from there because clearly I see that you've tried to marry COVID-19 and the law. So we'll pick on from there after the short break. Stay right here. COVID-19 came and disorganized our economy, brought our health system to its knees, and along the way, affected our rights significantly. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, your host.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, on it.